Hey everyone, Shannon Scott with Grave Talks coming to you from just beyond Seymour, Illinois, on the way to Springfield, Illinois to see what I can see. And I'll tell you what, I live in Savannah, Georgia currently, and the sound of silence is very refreshing, but also unfamiliar. I hear so many sirens and terrible things, but here we have nothing but, if you could hear clouds moving, it's so quiet you could actually hear that probably, and remove the occasional distant airplane exhaust noise, which is very minimal. You would have basically the sound of silence, and the only interruption being a pleasant one with songbirds. But anyway, country road, back roads, naturally, that's my style. And we've arrived to St. Joseph Catholic Cemetery, established in 1881. And beautiful. It's in the middle of nowhere. This is attached to probably the Catholic Church in Champaign, Illinois. But it's very curious because, I don't know, I guess I don't really think of a farming community that is this spread out as being of just kind of a one faith, or it's not always that, obviously, but to have a cemetery of the Victorian age, just being kind of Catholic. I don't know the history of the area, so just kind of coming in blind, seeing it in the distance, take a left off the road and you end up in a cemetery and you're working from there. I think it's interesting that looks to be a woman here named Bugs, or nicknamed Bugs, is buried here in the side lot all by herself. I'm afraid if I get down there to Beverly Grace, known as Bugs, if I get down there, there'll be ants and something to bite me. But you'll notice that she's kind of here in this grass line that has no other graves by headstone. So she must have been an interesting person, Bugs. A lot of gorgeous granite. It feels Georgia granite to me, but again, I don't know that. They went for a lot of heavy monolithic monuments, which I have to tell you will stand the winters pretty well. Once you're into marble and things like that, you start to get riskier with all of the snow, and there's certainly some marble here, very sparsely around, but they've aged the poorest. Probably looked good on the sales room floor in 1900, but as far as aging goes, you're not going to survive too much. And, you think about the tornadoes that now rip through Illinois, those big F3s and F2s, and they really, really take their toll. So, these monuments are just great. I'd go ahead and say that a hawk has been here and made lunch of whatever that was. But yeah, prolific community, prolific cemetery in the middle of nowhere. You're used to finding those little kind of country cemeteries with some sparse headstones and, maybe it's taken care of, maybe it's not. But obviously there's a lot of pride here in the St. Joseph Catholic Cemetery, Countryside, Illinois, somewhere between Seymour, Illinois, and Springfield, which is the destination today. We see quite a radiating sun here with the name Solon. So yeah, like Solon of Athens, meaning wise or sophisticated. So that's interesting. Solon. The names John and Ellen Solon and their son Michael are inscribed on the memorial altar at St. John's Catholic Church in Champaign, Illinois. So there you go. Ellen died in 1888, John in 1900, Thomas in 1915, and Michael in 1926. No immediate birth dates there, which is interesting. Usually there's a birth date and a death date, and then some others back here. Oh, it looks like one of them was a priest in Rockford, Illinois, James Solon, and Mary founded the memorial altar at St. John's Catholic Church in 1930. John J. Salon designed and erected this memorial in 1944. With some other names here, but James looks like he was a priest in Rockford, Illinois for 7 years and 40 years in DeKalb, Illinois. That's one of my favorite town names in Illinois. I don't know why. DeKalb. I wonder how they said that in the period. DeKalb. Just like it. I'm not sure what it means. It probably means something, right? Like of corn in German or Dutch. What do you think? Look it up, people. Tell me what DeKalb means. This is a beautiful stone here. Kind of pinkish granite. Gallivan. Daniel and Joanna. Beautiful, beautiful kind of lattice, lace looking carving there. Again, your granites were the way to go. Still kind of the way to go if you're looking for that basically bulletproof monument. The denser the better. We see a little marble one, of course. Again, we talked about fading. The fringe here, almost undetectable. The tassels, not quite as detailed. The urn is hanging in there, though. Usually these get pounded and knocked off, but doing pretty good. I'll tell you what caught my eye earlier, though, was a singular zinke. And of course, you taphophiles out there, I don't need to tell you what a zinke is at this point. But it really does look like granite. And these were manufactured in Connecticut to more or less some success. And they were meant to imitate granite. Now, again, for those that know nothing, these are metal, so you hear that hollow echo. Great little Lamb of God there in the triumphant arch. We've got the grotto detailing there, which is also kind of neat because that really does play on the granite appeal. These were marketed as white bronze in the period because I don't want to say it was a cheap metal. It was an ionized nickel with a powder coating. And so they were meant to look like granite, and it was a combination of things, but the monument maker carver, guilds and groups felt very threatened by this movement. Although I think it should have been allowed to remain as a business and wouldn't be a bad thing to maybe get back into. But in the end, the stonemasons felt so threatened. I mean, the understanding that I've come across is that they basically politicized or rather ran them out of business, with, I'm sure, various means, but, it just basically shook them up. There's some more PC tellings of that, but I really think it came down to stonemasons just going, you know what, we're okay with some of the manufacturing age, but this one's going to put us out of business. So what I know is that the factory in Connecticut retooled itself around World War I to make armaments for the military and kind of survived and moved on. But generally, these beautiful works were seen as a threat to the real stone carvers. And so, no more. But anyway, nice acanthus leaf patterns here in the arch. Kind of a radiating arch, almost vibrating heavenly from the Lamb, which is the original depiction of Christ in art. The earliest depictions of Christ in art is the Lamb. We have the egg pattern here, always a motif that it's done like a brooch too, like almost like a Victorian mourning brooch, which is wonderful. But that was always about the regeneration of life and the birth and the journey and all that. Some nice acanthus leaf style cornice work or frieze work. We have the kind of the Ark of the Covenant angels there hovering above Christ and the cross. Moving around to this side, the peace dove taking flight, which is just really nice. And of course, these look like headstones. If you look at the shape, these are meant to really emulate, your classic, doorway or window, perhaps. But they also feel like, a graveyard headstone, kind of traditional. that rounded top. So that's kind of nice. And then this one really caught my eye because you don't see this too much on the Zinkies, but it's later. It's 1968. They painted it from what it looks like, and I don't know. The paint's really a true metal type paint, or maybe it's just a different metal that was cast, but it looks all period to the overall object of the memorial monument, but it's just different. You know, I think they were just trying to make it, set it apart. You can see maybe a little paint overshoot here on the monument. So who knows when they painted it in the 60s, I don't know, but it's just really, really lovely. Again, more grotto detailing with that unfinished stone look, which is the style of that, for those wondering. It's a great aesthetic, but it's also about Christ coming out of the grotto, resurrection, just kind of implied, or in, implied in the aesthetic of the monument. But yeah, just a really lovely piece here in St. Joseph's Catholic Cemetery in the middle of nowhere. But we're going to get back on the road, see what we can see. Hopefully we find more gems like this. But again, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you're all doing well in the world, and appreciate your ongoing support of these adventures, because there's so many more to come, and really courtesy of you in many ways, but glad to do it for you. So yeah, Shannon Scott with Grave Talk signing off for now.